great depiction of just what we've just been talking about, graduation day. There's a few that wanted to share, and we'll have time for others of you who would like to as well. Just share some of your favorite memories. And would you like to come on up first? Yeah.
You got it.
Bear with me, everybody. Most of you know I'm fresh out of surgery, so little interesting standing and sitting and everything, but I could not be here. The worship service was kind of interesting because I remember sitting in church when I was a little girl. I always sat with Grandma and Papa, and partially because Papa always had gum, and partially because Grandma let me dig through her purse, and anything I found in there was fair game to play with. So it was always an adventure. She always put something different every Sunday in that purse, and that kept me quiet. At least until I was old enough to get in trouble with my best friend as a teenager. But anyway, that's another story. Where do I even begin to talk about how much this lady has affected every single person in this room? I'm talking mostly from the perspective of her grandchildren, all 8 of them. Of course, I was the favorite. But, you know, I'm sure all the rest of you probably thought you were the favorite too, because she had a way of doing that. She loved every single one of us, and she found ways to show us that individually, so we all felt special. I was the oldest though, so I got to do it longer. You know, there's so many memories. I had a hard time kind of even thinking, because some of the things happened before some of you were even born. That's some of the blessing I get. I have a few more memories of this incredible person. But, I mean, we can all think back of things like the family picnics that we had, either at Nana's house or Grandma's house. And we'd set up the volleyball net. And we'd play, and we'd eat, and we'd sing, and we'd get around the piano, and we'd sing hymns, and we'd play Ghost in the Graveyard after dark. And, you know, it was always about family, always about fun, always about getting together, doing things together. Grandma was all about her family. She was all about all of us loving each other, being together. This is hard, as you can imagine. She was one of those people who always stopped what she was doing when you needed her. I was best friends with my grandma. I used to talk to her about literally everything. If I was mad at my parents, which happened an awful lot, I told Grandma about it. And Grandma never, ever judged me. Grandma never, ever gave me a hard time, yelled at me, even when I was in the wrong. Grandma always listened to me, always loved me, always guided me according to Scripture. I now know as an adult, but at the time, I didn't realize that. That just was who she was. That's how she thought, how she knew. That's what her faith was. And she passed that on to me in her teaching, in her experience, in her listening to me, in her teaching me and showing me. And I'm sure she did with all of her grandchildren. There were so many fun things. I don't know if you guys remember this or not, but when I was a little girl, one of my favorite things was she would decide she was going to get out the fudge and make hot fudge and get out the vanilla ice cream. And her hot fudge was the best you had ever tasted in your life. And I really wish someone had her write that down before she forgot it, because it was incredible. And it's one of my favorite childhood memories. She used to do that. You know, she used to take us camping. I I remember a big orange and yellow tent. We would go camping, I think out in York, Doris maybe? I don't know, I was young enough that I can't quite remember, but I remember us piling in the back of Pop-Pop's pickup truck before everybody had to be in a seatbelt and everything. We'd drive out to Distal Pink and get ice cream, and boy, was that big stuff. You know, I remember Pop-Pop's dogs. I remember the horse he got. I always thought it was just for me. I don't know if it was or not, but it was, you know. I remember the roosters and the chickens. I remember going out and helping to get the eggs, and Grandma and Pop-Pop teaching me about that kind of thing. I remember them having the eggs hatch in the basement, and they would take me downstairs every day, and I'd get to watch and see what happened. Because we spent most of our childhood at Grandma's house. Grandma's house was our second house. You know, Mike talked about how she was always babysitting. She was. Her house was an extension of our home, and Grandma and Pop-Pop was an extension of our parents, and that's just the way it was. I remember Christmases at her house. Every Christmas Eve we'd go to church, and then we'd go to her house, and we'd have open presents, and Grandma would have on her silver Christmas outfit, very fancy every year, and we'd open presents. And I thought about naming some of the funny gifts and things, but then I thought I'd spare some embarrassment of some of my cousins. But you know, it was just a wonderful family time. And then, one of the most beautiful things that I wanted to share about Grandma was, as I grew up and I watched her through the eyes of someone who was maturing, I realized how much of a servant my grandma was. My grandma was always available to help people. She was always there with a meal, with an encouraging word. She played the piano for her Sunday school class, literally forever. She did everything that she could for other people. When Mike already mentioned this, when my Pop-Pop got sick and was struggling, she cared for him for everything that she had in her. When my Nana got old and started to not be able to be by herself, she took her in and she cared for her with everything in her. My grandma taught me through her example what it is to love someone, what it is to care for someone, what it is to look at their needs first before you look at anything else, and do what's right for that person that you're taking care of, no matter what. And in the end, Grandma was always right, and she always did what was right for the people that she loved. And Robin, I just want to thank you and Barbie so much that you did that same thing for Grandma. In the end, when she needed you too, you stepped up to the plate and you filled her shoes. And I know you didn't always feel like you could, but you did. And Grandma, before she went to heaven, knew beyond a shadow of a doubt that she was loved and cared for. And I'm sure I speak for all 8 of us grandchildren when we say thank you for that, because that means the world to know that Grandma was loved the same way she would have loved her mom, her husband, her anyone. And just 2 more quick things. My dad couldn't be here. A lot of you know that he's had several strokes and he's not in a position to be able to travel anymore. And the family couldn't come either for various reasons. I spoke to my dad, and the biggest thing that he wanted me to share with you is that his mom was a good mom, that he loved her, and that he was thankful for her, and that she was a good mom. And that is what he keeps saying right now. So I think that's basically what he wanted me to say about that. The only other thing I wanted to say is, you know, obviously because of my surgery, I was not able to be here while we were waiting for her to go home. I was graciously able to FaceTime with her, the joys of modern technology. And I was able to kind of say goodbye. But one of the things I told her I wanted to share, I had a dream about a day or two before I spoke to her. And in my dream, she had gone to heaven. And the first person, I was standing there watching all of this, and the first person that came out to greet her was Jesus. And he threw his arms around her and he said, "Well done, good and faithful servant." Those words that we all want to hear from him someday. And right after he did that, the very next person that she saw was Nana. And Nana threw her arms around her and she said, "You've done so good." And she said, "You're finally here. I now have all three of my girls with me." And as I stood there and I watched, I saw that she was good, that everything was good. She was happy. She didn't have dementia anymore. She didn't have all that stuff that comes with being 90 years old. She was happy and healthy and in a really good place, and I knew she was okay. And I told her about that dream when I said goodbye to her. And I just thought I wanted to share that with you. I really believe that was God giving me a peek. Grandma is doing really great right now. And she's healthy. And she's happy. And, you know, that is what we all really want to know, and that's what we really care about. I'm thankful that we've had her for 90 years, that I've had her for 46 years. We will always have her with us. What she always said, all the time, is she is our source. And I have been thinking about that ever since she passed. He is our source. And I just think each and every one of us, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren especially, remember those words. Think about those words. Think about what that means. Because that's how Grandma lived her life.